is Rick Hagar, plugging in here from my home in New York, and just a big shout out to everyone here today. Appreciate you spending some time with us on a Saturday. I know there's a lot you could be doing right now. We're getting to the close of summer. It's a beautiful day here in New York. I hope it's the same where you are, and we won't keep you long. But what we want to do is every Saturday we come together either on a conference call or on a webinar like this, and we talk about team building strategies, business building strategies, things that we can do to move our ViSi business forward. And this is one of my favorite parts of the week because I'm just a big student of this industry. I'm always studying. I'm always learning. I've had some incredible mentors, and my objective is to pass along to you just the concepts and the ideas and things that I learn in hopes that it can put value into your business as we all work together to grow ViSi into a company that we can all be proud of and be excited to be a part of. And so today what we're going to do on this webinar is we're going to talk a little bit about understanding the team building process. Now I want you to understand right up front, when we talk about understanding the team building process, we could do a half-day seminar on this. We could do a half-day workshop on this. In 20 minutes, it's kind of difficult to get through everything, but I'm going to give you kind of an overview of some of the things that I've learned about building teams, building networks, and I hope you'll take this information. Hopefully you're making some notes. You'll apply it, and it'll be able to provide value to you every day as you develop and as you build your ViSi business. And I want to also state that this is not necessarily a training for someone who just wants to use the products and maybe make an extra couple $100 a month. This is training that's designed predominantly for someone that wants to go out and develop a six-figure income in ViSi. This is talking about things that are at a little bit of a higher level for people that want to build a bigger business and experience what it's like to make the larger incomes in our industry. And so that's really where this training is geared. Now maybe your goals are to work part-time and make an extra 30, 40, 50,000 a year, 60,000 a year. This is good for you too. It's just not really for someone that wants to make an extra couple $100 a month. That person could go out there, just share the products, gather a handful of customers, maybe sponsor a distributor or two, and they can get there very easily. Most of you are already there or beyond that or close to that. This is for people that really want to take it to the next level and build a significant income that will impact them and their family in some level from a financial standpoint. So with that being said, let's go ahead and begin here and talk first and foremost when we discuss team building that it's about duplication. Everything is about duplication. If your objective or if your goal is to make a six-figure income, if your objective is to get to $10,000 or $15,000 a month or go way beyond that, which we don't have any limit on our income here with ViSi, if that is your objective, then you've got to understand a couple key components here. Number one, you can't sell your way there. You cannot sell your way there. Yes, you could make a great income just gathering customers exclusively. Yes, you could make a little bit of money, but you're not going to get into the bigger money exclusively just trying to sell your way there. That's not going to happen. Number two, you can't recruit your way there. In other words, I don't want you to be the type of person that just throws a bunch of stuff against the wall and hopes that something will stick. What you have to do is you have to not just recruit people and leave them. You know, in the early stage of my career, there was a phrase that I heard, you know, here's your desk, here's your phone, goodbye, pal, you're on your own. That's not what we're trying to do here. Recruiting is very important, but we just can't simply recruit people for the sake of recruiting people. What we want to do is we want to duplicate ourselves. So if you want to make that six-figure income, if you want to have a chance to have lifestyle, if you want to have a chance to have an income and time freedom, you can't sell your way there. You can't recruit your way there. You can only duplicate your way there. And that's going to bring into play a number of different things that we have to think about. We want to keep everything in our business simple. We want to keep everything in our business easy and fun, because if other people cannot duplicate what we are doing, then what we're doing is something that is going to stifle our business. So everything we do, we always want to ask ourselves, is this something that other people could replicate? Is this something that other people could duplicate? Now that doesn't mean from time to time you might not do something that's not duplicatable. You may do that, but the main structure of your business should be something that is highly duplicatable. Now, that being said, if we know that we can't sell our way to a six-figure income, if we know we can't just simply recruit our way, if we know we have to duplicate our way, then the next question that comes up is, how good are you as a master copy? See, because if people are going to duplicate you, then you have to be a really good master copy, don't you? You have to be a great master copy. I remember back in the day, this is going back into the early 80s, when I was a teenager, I was very much into music. I was very much into bands. I was a musician. I played in a band. And, my buddies would go out there and they'd buy a cassette tape or the radio. This is back in the day of, things would be on the radio, and we'd be sitting there waiting for our favorite songs to come on with the cassette player, and we'd record it off the radio, because as teenagers, we didn't really have a whole lot of money to go buying tons of CDs and stuff like the kids nowadays seem to have. But so we'd sit there and wait for a great song to come on, and when it would come on, we'd hit replay, and we would record our favorite songs off of the radio. Well, the quality of that recording will determine how well you could duplicate. I'd have friends that say, oh, you recorded that song, man, you got to copy that for me and get me a tape of that. And if my original recording wasn't good, then the copy certainly wasn't going to be good. And it's the same thing if you've ever made a photocopy. The cleaner the original is, the stronger the copies that you make are going to be. If you have something that is, a real nasty master, you're going to get duplicates that aren't going to work. And so ultimately, and how does that correspond to what we're talking about here? Well, it's real simple. The things that you do and the things that you teach and the way that you are will typically be duplicated by the people in your group because you're the one that's going to be spending the time with them. So the stronger the master copy, the stronger the duplicate will be. So you have to look at, and it all starts with you. It all starts with me. If we're going to build a team and we're talking about team building, we have to look at ourselves first because we're the master copy. We have to look at our attitudes. We have to look at our philosophies. Our attitudes and philosophies worth duplicating. Do we have correct attitudes toward the business? Do we have a correct understanding of the business? How do we feel about the business? Are we excited? Are we in a position where we're plugging into everything, taking advantage of everything? Because again, the speed of the leader determines the rate of the pack. You are the master copy. So you have to look at a couple different things. How did you enter the business? Because typically, people that are going to be on your team are going to duplicate you. You can look at how did you enter the business. Did you come in with either a power pack or a velocity pack? Chances are, whatever you did, the majority of the people in your organization will do. That's what they're going to do, okay? There are some people that will come in and they'll just sign up on the computer for $35, and then maybe they'll wait a little while, and then, there's a philosophy there. There's an attitude there, and that typically is going to fester itself into the organization, and that's not something that we want to duplicate. That's not a really super good master copy. So when you come into the business, what you want to look at is, did you start with the pack? Did you start with, the power pack or the velocity pack? And by the way, I do realize that different people have different financial availabilities, that what they can do and what they can't do. I'm not saying that one pack is better than the other, but one of the two packs is very, very important to get because you want to create this process of duplication. And so you want that to be clean in terms of your business. Are you on auto ship? That's another question. There are people that will come in and they don't want to make a commitment. And again, this goes to an attitude. This goes to a philosophy. This goes to a thought process. How can we duplicate a business? How can we become strong and successful if the master copy is a little bit off in terms of attitude and philosophy and commitment? You see what I'm saying? So when you look at what you're doing in your business, you've got to ask yourself, am I a great master copy? Did I come in with a pack? Did I set up an auto ship? Am I plugging into the calls? Am I plugging into the webinars? In other words, if every distributor in your group did what you did today, would you be excited about that? Are you focusing and thriving on becoming the best distributor in your group? And that's really what your objective should be every single day. I'm going to be the best distributor in my group. I'm going to do everything that I can to set the best example, to be the best distributor in my group, to do the things that are important that lead to success. Now, you may have distributors in your organization that will grow faster than you because everybody has different waves of growth, and that's okay. Don't worry about that. But just set the standard in terms of your attitudes, your philosophies, how you're doing it, how you're teaching it, how you're plugging in. because that's really what's going to determine how your group ends up. Everything that happens in an organization all stems back to the philosophies of, the person that started that little organization. And so this is the first part of team building, becoming a good master copy. Now, here is a key concept to think about when we talk about team building, okay? As you begin to start putting a team together, assuming that you're a great master copy, assuming that you came in with the pack, assuming you're on auto ship, assuming that your attitude's right, your philosophies are right, you're looking at this properly. This is a concept, this is a philosophy that is very important to understand, but it's also critical to teach this to people because you want people having the right type of expectations in your business. As you begin this process called team building and putting together a team, the key concept is what you do today isn't going to show up today. What you do today isn't going to show up today. You're always going to be a minimum of 90 days away from your paycheck. And a lot of times it's much longer than that. Okay, so whatever you're doing today is going to probably begin to show up 90 days from now. And there's this little concept called seed time and harvest. If you can see the image, if you're watching the webinar today, I know some of you are probably just calling into the call bridge, but there's this thing called seed time and harvest. And this actually goes back into the scriptures. But we all know this. We all know that if we're going to plant a garden, we're going to have to go out there and we're going to have to get the soil ready. We're going to have to plant some seeds. And those seeds are not going to shoot up that day. My wife just planted some pepper plants not too long ago. And I've been watching her every single day, going out there, looking at them, watering them, taking care of them. And you don't plant a seed and get a result that day. You don't plant a seed and get a result that week. There's time. You have to plant the seed, and you have to nurture the seed, and then there's a time period that has to go by before you can get a hold of that harvest. And unfortunately, in network marketing, and this is very, very important to get this, there's been an influence that started to seep its evil head into our industry of quick money fast today. I don't want to do a whole lot. I just want to get paid today. And that's led to compensation plans that are very destructive. It's led to money games. We just saw one go down last week. This quick fix, not taking advantage of what reality tells us of seed time and harvest, is very destructive. So if you want to have a chance to have long-term success, this is a philosophy that's real important to get, that what you do today is not going to show up today. You're always 90 days away from your paycheck. There's this concept of seed time harvest. Plant the seed, give it some time, and then you will be able to reap the harvest. You can't plant, and this is what I'm getting at with this, is a lot of people will come in, they'll start planting seeds, and then within a week or 2 weeks or 30 days or 45 days, they're not making $10,000 a month. They get discouraged, and what happens is they throw out their arms and say, oh, I gave it a try. Network marketing did not work for me. And that's very, very unfortunate because they did not understand this concept of seed time and harvest. They did not understand the principle that what you do today doesn't show up today. You're always 90 days away. I'll give you another example. There are people in our company right now that are making, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a week, right? Now, you might look at that and go, well, yeah, they're making $2,000 or $3,000 a week. That's great for them. I got news for you. They're only making $2,000 or $3,000 a week because of what they did a month, 2 months, 3 months ago when we got started. They've been here for 90 days cranking away. They've been making phone calls. They've been getting people exposed. They've been doing three-way calls. And so what they're seeing today is a result of what happened when they got started a few months back. Whenever you see someone tremendously successful, recognize that that didn't all happen in one day. It took a while for them sowing seeds to get to where they are. So as you go forward, you want to understand this and you want to begin to share this with your team so that they have the correct expectations and they have realistic expectations, and only through this process do real lasting results come. So very important philosophy. You want to teach that because it's real easy to go out there. It's real easy to talk to a bunch of people. It's real easy to sponsor some people, sponsor some customers. You don't see a big check and you begin to get discouraged. It's real easy for that to happen. It happens to all of us, but you have to understand this concept that we're talking about. You have to be consistent and be focused, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. So there is this thing called seed time harvest, and what you do today does not show up today. It shows up at a much later point in time. But let me tell you something, folks. When it does show up, oh my goodness, does it get really exciting, because you may work a lot today. And here's a key statement. You may work a lot today. You may work a lot tomorrow. You may work a lot this week. And you may do a lot now, and you seem like you're not getting paid much for it. But later on in your business, 6, 12, 18, 24 months, when your group matures and explodes, you'll be making so much more money than the effort that you're actually putting in. But the reality is all that money that you're making is a result of what you did in the beginning. Very, very important concept to understand. So that being said, let's continue on here. Team building is a process. Don't get emotionally hung up on what people do or don't do. Get emotionally attached to the process. So as you go forward and we begin to discuss team building, as you begin to communicate with people, as you begin to start putting distributors together, I don't want you to be emotionally hung up on what people do or don't do. I don't want you to get emotionally attached to outcomes. There are going to be people that tell you they're going to do it, they're going to do it, they're going to do it, and then after 2 weeks of stringing you along, they don't do it. Don't allow yourself to get emotionally attached to that and become discouraged with that. That's just the way it is. It's part of the process. There are going to be people that you think are going to be unbelievable, and you're going to go out there and you're going to sponsor them, and you're going to have high hopes for them, and they're going to let you down. They're going to be people that just you think they're going to build it big, and they don't. Don't get emotionally attached to that. What I want you to get emotionally attached to is the process of team building. If you put your faith, if you put your focus, if you put your emotion into the process of team building, I'm going to share with you exactly what that is in just a moment, then you expect that a certain number of people aren't going to do it. You expect that a certain number of people are going to complain and they're going to disappear after a week. You expect that to happen. You know it's part of the process. But you also know that there are going to be some that do it, and some that do it in a very big way. So this is, again, another philosophy. Don't get emotionally hung up. Focus and get emotionally attached on the process, not the outcomes of what people do or don't do. Now, that being said, let's get into the nuts and bolts of team building here. When we discuss and we look at team building, there's something I learned a long time ago from an incredibly brilliant mentor of mine. He said there are two things you've got to be aware of. There are strategies, Rick, and there are tactics. The strategy is your overall objective. It's your long-term goal. It's what you want your outcome to be. That's your strategy. By the way, these are military terms. For example, if you want to make $15,000 a month and have an organization that is producing a certain amount of volume and that provides you a certain type of a lifestyle, that's your overall strategy. That's your overall game plan. That's your long-term goal. A tactic is the daily things that you do to get to your strategy. It's the daily things that you do to make certain things happen to get where you need to go. So you have strategies and tactics. Now, your strategy is something that should always be constant. Your strategy is your goal, it's your outcome, it's what you want. That doesn't change. But the tactics that you use to get there can vary. What works today might not necessarily be the best idea 60 days from now. You know, there are some little tools that we might use today, but if a new product or something comes out, we might have to switch our tools a little bit. So if you see that we're doing one thing that is a tactic, and 3 or 4 or 5 weeks down the line, we tweak it a little bit, don't get all hung up on that and say, oh, we're changing our Remember, there's strategy and there's a tactic. Strategy is the overall long-term objective of what you want to accomplish in team building. And the tactic are the little things that you do each and every day to work your way there. So when you hand out a sample, that is a tactic. When you hand out a brochure, that is a tactic. When you invite someone onto a conference call, that is a tactic. When you invite someone onto a webinar, it's a tactic. When you bring someone to a meeting, it's a tactic. These are all tactics that we do daily and weekly and monthly to get us to our goal of what we want to accomplish. Okay? Very important to understand the difference between the two. Now, that being said, let's take a look at kind of the basic flow, if you will, of this team building process and how we basically approach this. There are components to this. My mentor taught me a long time ago that there's this thing called a funnel. And he taught me about the concept of how the funnel works in terms of developing a team. And you could call this the funnel. We also refer to it interchangeably as the pipeline. There's a process to building a business. This is also what the process is, and this is kind of how things flow through. There's components in this, and I want you to visualize a very large, let's just say maybe a life-size funnel. It could be 10 foot high by 4 or 5 feet wide. And there are segments of this funnel that are basically stages. And what you have to do in the team building process is first, and there are 5 components to this, first you have to have a source of prospects. You've got to have a source of prospects. Now obviously when we bring a new person on board, the first source is their circle of influence. It's their contact list. They sit down, they make a list. It could be family, neighbors, friends, coworkers, people that they know. We don't want people to prejudge this list in any way. We want people to just make a list of people that they know, that they can communicate with, and that is their first source of prospects. Now obviously that's where they begin because you have credibility with people. You have a relationship with people. They trust you. They like you. You trust them. You want to work with people that you have a relationship with because you can get a fair hearing. But beyond that, there are other sources of prospects. You know, obviously a lot of people are on Facebook. You probably have 50, 100, 200, 300 friends on Facebook. That is actually part of your circle of influence, by the way. Some people, when they get beyond their circle of influence, they begin to run ads. Some people do trade shows. The point is, you've got to begin with sources of prospects. That's where it all begins. Now, the next component of this is once you have sources of prospects, you've got to begin to feed this funnel. You've got to begin to put these sources of prospects through this process. You've got to be able to fill the funnel and get that flow going. The first part of it is developing an awareness. You've got to expose people to what it is that we're doing here at ViSi. If you've got a list of 10 prospects, the first thing you got to do is make them aware that there's an opportunity here. Make them aware that there's a product that can help them here. And all we're talking about here is inviting people to learn more. And when you have a prospect and you invite that person to learn more, in essence, you are putting that prospect in the top of that funnel. You are starting the process with that person. Okay? So that's step number 1 is you've got to get people aware of what we're doing in the company. And all it really comes down to is a simple invitation. Hey, Mary, listen, I've come across an amazing product with some ingredients from Scandinavia. People are losing weight like crazy. Do you know of anyone that might be interested in having a little bit more energy, maybe losing a few pounds? Well, when Mary answers, well, what is it? Can you tell me more? You've started the process. You have made Mary aware now of ViSi and of the product and of the opportunity, okay? Hey, Jim, I'm working with some real successful people here. I've come across a project, and there could be a chance to make an awful lot of money. They're expanding into the area here. We're looking for a few key people. Do you know of anyone that might be able to use an extra few thousand a month? Well, yeah, me. What's it all about? You have started the process. You're making them aware. So you've got a source of prospects. Then what you do is you create an awareness by beginning to ask questions. If the person responds positively to the question, they go to the next phase in the funnel, which is to develop an interest. You've got to get them to become interested now in what it is that we're doing. And the way that you do that is you get them connected to tools. Remember, what we talked about in the beginning of this webinar, it's about duplication. You want a process that people can easily duplicate. Well, tools are duplicatable. You can invite someone to review a webinar. We've got recorded webinars. We've got live webinars. It's the easiest way for them to get detailed information fast. And so you can invite them to review a webinar. If they review the webinar and if they like what they see on the webinar and they want to pursue it further, then the next step might be to put some samples in their hands so they can try the product. They get results on the product, and obviously with the sample you might have a brochure that goes with that. So the point here is the next step of the process is once they're aware that something exists, you want to get them educated to see if there's an interest in them pursuing it a little bit further. Very, very important. I like the concept of webinar and then the sample in a brochure because that really begins to educate them, and that's a really good sift or filter for this particular component. Now, the next thing is you've got to, in this process, build up some desire. You've got to build up some desire. And what I have found is that when people hear testimonials, that's what really gets them excited. So you may want to add to this process a three-way call with your sponsor or someone in your upline. And typically, whenever you're doing three-way calls, it's to answer questions and share stories. If there's a live meeting coming up in your area, you may want to invite them to that live meeting or a home meeting. Call those launch meetings, whatever you want to name it. You invite them there and just share stories. When people get plugged into other people and begin hearing stories, that's when they start getting a desire to really want to push forward. And then, of course, the next phase of this is action. It's getting them into action. So if you can visualize a person coming through this funnel, they start out in this batch of prospects that we call a source of prospects. You ask an invitation question. They now become aware. That's the first part of the funnel. Then if they become aware, you point them to some tools like a webinar. You maybe get some samples in their hands. That's what begins to generate an interest in them. Then maybe you do a three-way call with your prospect. You invite them to a meeting, start sharing some stories. Now there's a desire level that's there. And by the way, that might be a good desire or a bad desire. Maybe a good desire to get on the product, and maybe a good desire to get into the business, or maybe a desire not to do anything. So there's some desire being developed either way. And then the last thing here is action. It's asking them, are you ready to get started? And they come out the bottom of this funnel and take some sort of an action. And that action literally could be to become a distributor. That action could be to become just a customer, or it could be to opt out of the whole thing entirely and not do anything. And that's okay. Remember, we're not going to get emotionally attached to what people do or don't do. We're only going to focus on the process of putting them into this funnel and moving them through. We're going to create an awareness. We're going to work with tools to develop an interest and a desire, and then there's an action that's going to happen, and they're going to come out of this funnel and fall into one of three buckets. It's either the distributor bucket, the customer bucket, or the opt-out bucket, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That's all there is to it. And so that's the concept that we're talking about here. Now, the question becomes, how do we really become successful at this? Well, there's this process or this concept called Sinaloa, and this is something that was taught to me by my mentor a long time ago. Sinaloa is an acronym. It's S-I-N-A-L-O-A, and Sinaloa stands for Safety in Numbers and Law of Averages. Safety in numbers and a law of averages. Consistency and focus are the key. The amount of activity at the top of the funnel always determines what happens at the bottom. So the more people you put into the funnel, the more people that you start to make aware, and again, that's the first stage of this, the more people you invite to learn what we're doing, the more people at the bottom will begin falling out of that funnel. And so if you look at the concept of the funnel, and you look at the concept that people go through this process, and there's three boxes or three buckets that they fall into, the distributor bucket, the customer bucket, and the opt-out bucket. If you want to get more customers, you got to put more people in the funnel at the top. The more people you put in the funnel, the more people are going to fall into that customer box. If you want to get more distributors, it's the same thing. You put more people in the top of the funnel. The more you fill the funnel, the more people fall into the distributor and customer box. And of course you're going to have people that will fall into the opt-out box. That's going to happen. But the more you fill it at the top, the more you get the two boxes that you're looking for. It's really as simple as that. And if you take away from what we're doing here, take away from what we're talking about, the process of filling a funnel with people, this process, take a regular funnel, let's say a 10-foot by 5-foot funnel, and go to the top of that funnel and drop in one drop of water at the top of the funnel, okay? Is that one drop of water going to come out the bottom? Probably not. It's probably going to get lost in there somewhere. If, let's just say on Monday, you dropped in one or two or three drops at the top, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you didn't do anything anymore, okay? And then you came back a week later, that inconsistency is not going to produce a lot of action at the bottom of that funnel. But if you stayed there Monday and you put a handful of water in the top and you kept doing it and kept doing it and kept doing it and kept doing it, eventually you will see action at the bottom of the funnel. And this, what we're talking about here, folks, is one of the biggest keys to success in this business. If you understand the process and you're emotionally hung up on the process and the focus is filling the funnel at the top, and you can be consistent, you can be focused, and you can play with the safety in numbers and law of averages concept to keep filling the top, that is what is going to produce the result at the bottom. And when you get this, you can go out there and create any income that you want. If you want to make $10,000 a month, all you got to do is fill the funnel enough at the top to fill up the two boxes that you want to get you where you want to go. And of course, obviously, when a person comes in as a distributor, they begin to duplicate this process. Okay, they begin to come in and we begin to teach them some of these things. So this is the process that we want you to get engaged in. Now, here's another important thing. When you have people going through this funnel, going through this process, and they fall through the funnel and fall into the distributor or the customer box, What we want to do is begin to get our arms around these folks and really focus on developing a relationship. Our business is very much about relationships. Now, if people opt out, we still want to have a relationship with them, but we're not going to chase them every single day is what I'm saying. If someone becomes a distributor, you want to get real close to them real fast. You want to develop a friendship, because what I have found is that the stronger your relationship, the stronger your friendship, the less likely they are to quit. The longer they'll hang in there, and the longer they hang in there, the better their chance of being successful. So we want to really understand that it's about relationships, focus on the new distributorships. There's a culture and there's an environment that is very, very important, and we'll discuss that in just a moment. But you really want to stress to people the cause and the necessity of what it is that we're doing in the company so that they feel like they're a part of something that's much, much larger than just a little deal to go out there and make a little bit of money. And here's a warning. As you begin to do this and you begin to sponsor a few distributors, okay, there are going to be different people that have different goals. The warning that I would give to you is don't try to push people to do what you want them to do. Push them and let them fit where they want to fit. If someone has a goal and they only want to make an extra $500 a month and that's all they can see, don't push them to go for $10,000 a month, because you'll blow them right out of the water and they'll become very uncomfortable with what it is that you want, and they will have a difficult time working with you because you're putting this pressure on them and it's just not what they want. It's real maturity when you can decide to leave people alone with what it is that they want to do. Let them fit where they want to fit. And that's the magic of putting together a team. You're going to have different people with different goals. Some are just going to want to use the product. Some are going to want to make an extra few hundred a month. Some are going to want to make a few thousand a month. And there will be a few that want to get wealthy. And you have to recognize as you put this team together that when you identify someone that's just not willing to pay the price, that's just not willing to put in the effort, they're happy with a few hundred a month, leave them alone. Don't try to push them to go any further. Be there for them, support them, tell them that they're doing a great job, let them know that anything they need, you're there, and just let them fit the way that they want to fit. Now, if they indicate to you they want to make more, then yes, you can be a leader and you can help them, nudge them along. But if they're not indicating that to you, then just kind of let them fit the way that they want to fit. Very, very important. And the last component here is the environment. It's very, very important that we train people and work with people to stay focused on the environment. As people begin to come in and you begin to develop a team, we want to encourage people to always be plugging into any conference calls that we do. Always be reviewing all of the webinars. If there's a webinar on a Tuesday or a Thursday or a Saturday, if there are recorded webinars, you want to get people plugged into those webinars so that they can continue to get their attitude right, learn, and grow. Attend all functions. If there's a meeting in your area, you want to encourage your people to be there. It's important that they're there. Illumination is coming up. We want to really focus on encouraging people to get to illumination. Do whatever you have to do to be there within reason, because we know how important that's going to be. When you're there and you walk out of that meeting, your belief level is going to be off the charts. And it's going to mean something to you in terms of your belief when you go out to recruit someone or when you talk with someone on the phone. If you've had a chance to spend time with Kent Lewis and Ryan Lewis and Jeff Millett and some of the leaders that you have in the organization, and you spend time with some of these folks, you're going to be in a much stronger position when you communicate with people if you've been there and you've seen it and you've touched it and you've felt it than if you hadn't. And I realize that some people will have personal circumstances where they just absolutely positively cannot be there, but all I'm saying is do everything in your power to be there that you can, to be there. It'd be very, very important. And then, of course, wrap your team in this philosophy. Always be promoting the calls and the webinars and the functions and everything, because the more your team is plugged in, the stronger their attitude will be, the better trained they're going to be, the more belief they're going to have, the better philosophy they're going to have. It just works to strengthen everybody as a whole. And so it's very important. So if you look at the process and what we've talked about on this webinar, that there are a few handful of things that are very, very important. There's a process that you move people through. As you move people through that process, then there's a relationship and an environment that is the glue that holds it all together. That's the concept, that's the essence of team building, the whole concept and process of team building. And so I just want to say, look, I hope you've been able to get something out of this brief webinar. I appreciate you for taking the time out of your schedule to be here. I want to thank you very, very much. And we'll go ahead and make sure that this recording gets out so that you can share it with people that maybe weren't able to be here on this particular webinar. A lot of great things going on in ViSi, folks. The product testimonials just keep pouring in like crazy. The income testimonials, the rank advancements are coming in like crazy, and you guys are doing a fantastic job. So I take my hat off to you. I hope you have a fantastic day here today and the rest of your weekend, wherever you may be. I look forward to communicating with you on the next call or on the next webinar or just on a personal phone call, if that. Okay? Have a great day, everyone. We'll talk with you again real soon. Thanks for being here. Bye for now.